Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson's marriage proves that not every Hollywood union ends in scandal. Despite the ups and downs of celebrity, these two have been each other's rock for nearly half a century, making it all seem like a romantic comedy. The tale behind the glamorous red carpet appearances and beaming smiles is far more interesting and chaotic than you might think. Their love has endured, but their path together hasn't always been smooth sailing. Rita Wilson is now letting the curtain down, exposing the painful realities of Tom's struggles before they said I do and the difficulties that put their relationship to the test. Here in this video, we're dissecting the pain, the determination, and, oh yes, the humor. Tom Hanks's family tree is as varied as his acting jobs. He was born on July 9, 1956, in Concord, California. His father, Amos Bud Hanks, was of English descent, and his mother, Janet Marilyn, was of Portuguese descent from a family originally called Fraga. Interesting fact, Hanks can trace his family tree back to Fred Rogers and President Abraham Lincoln. That Mr. Rogers, too, who he would portray in a film in the future. An unusual path was taken by Hanks's boyhood after his parents' divorce in 1960. Jim, the youngest brother, who is now an actor and filmmaker, remained in Red Bluff, California with their mother, while he and two of his siblings relocated with their father. There was never a dull moment while they lived with their nomadic cook dad. Hanks had already lived in 10 different houses by the time he was 10 years old. We don't know the Hanks of today from his adolescent years. A self-proclaimed geeky and spaz, he suffered from extreme shyness. His ability to make others laugh was evident even in elementary school, when he would often add humorous captions to classroom film strips. Hanks was awkward, but he was also quite responsible, which may explain how little trouble he ever got into. He made his acting debut in a South Pacific musical while still a high school student. Where I was a student at Oakland, California's Skyline High School. Also, Hanks had his first taste of movies while growing up in the Bay Area. The Alameda Theater was the birthplace of his cinematic passion, and he remembers spending countless hours there. Following his heart's desire, he attended Chabot College in Hayward for theater studies before moving to California State University, Sacramento. His genuine calling, acting, became apparent to him quickly. Actually, Hanks once said in an interview that acting school seemed like the perfect fit for an ostentatious guy like himself. His obsession with plays by Ibsen, Brecht, and Tennessee Williams led him to frequently attend performances alone, allowing him to completely absorb the experience. Hanks first crossed paths with Vincent Dowling, Cleveland's Great Lakes Theater Festival director, while he was a college student. Dowling suggested that he try his hand at festival internships, which became an intensive 3-year program in acting, stage management, lighting, and set design. After dropping out of college to gain this practical experience, Hanks was rewarded in 1978 with the Cleveland Critics Circle Award for Best Actor for his portrayal of Proteus in The Two Gentlemen of Verona. It was an uncommon role for him to portray the antagonist, but it revealed his immense talent. After leaving the relative calm of California in 1979, Hanks sought out the exciting energy of New York. His career took off there, with his first film role in the low-budget slasher He Knows You're Alone. The film wasn't a smash hit, but it was a stepping stone to his breakout role in the TV movie Maze and Monsters. At about the same time, he made a splash on stage as Calamaco in a Riverside Shakespeare Company performance of The Mandrake. After waiting a year, Hanks got the part that would make him famous all over the country in the comedy series Busum Buddies. In a humorously offbeat turn, he co-starred with Peter Scolari as a young advertising executive who, for financial reasons, had to check into an inexpensive all-female hotel while pretending to be a woman. Despite the show's brief run, critics praised it, and Hanks' charisma and brilliance were immediately apparent to those in the know. Hanks' relocation to Los Angeles ushered forth a new era. The authors of the romantic comedy Splash saw him in a guest spot on Happy Days and were impressed. Hanks, who was considered for a supporting part at first, ended up playing the lead role of a guy who develops feelings for a mermaid. Earned over $69 million and cemented Hanks' status as a starring man, it was an unexpected box office hit. After this hit, Hanks dabbled in comedy, playing roles such as the extravagant bachelor party and appearing as Elise Keaton's disturbed brother on Family Ties on an occasional basis. But there were serious moments as well. Hanks made a bold move into drama despite having no prior experience in the field. Acting as a son trying to get through his issues with his father, Jackie Gleason. His capacity to give performances nuanced emotional weight was on full display in the film, which marked a turning point for him. Hanks was already a household name in Hollywood by the late 80s, when he inked a contract with Disney. His brilliance and versatility were undeniable, even though not every film he participated in during this time was a smash. He would go on to revolutionize the role of the leading man in Hollywood, starting with his rise from buzzing buddies stardom to his breakout performance in films. Tom Hanks's career took a dramatic shift with the 1988 release of Big, catapulting him into the upper echelon of Hollywood. He became a fan favorite and received his first Best Actor nomination for his work in the fantasy comedy blending humor with genuine emotion. Despite the film's commercial flop, he demonstrated his emotional range that year in Punchline, in which he co-starred with Sally Field as a floundering comic. However, not all endeavors undertaken during this time were successful. Despite starring Tom Hanks as a Wall Street executive embroiled in a hit-and-run incident, films such as Joe vs. The Volcano, The Burbs, and The Bonfire of the Vanities bombed at the box office. Turner and Hooch were a shining light amidst all the bad, proving that Tom Hanks could even be charming as part of a police dog team. Although Hanks' career was skyrocketing, the narrative of his personal life behind the scenes was quite different. Away from the glitz and glamour, his life's journey was filled with ups and downs. His first marriage, alas, was the beginning of that emotional roller coaster. From 1978 to 1987, Tom Hanks was married to Samantha Lewis. It was before he achieved true happiness with Rita Wilson. At Sacramento State University, where they were both taking acting classes, they became fast friends and then lovers. Colin, now 46 years old, and Elizabeth, 42 years old, are their children from their 1978 marriage. No matter how hard she tried, Samantha's acting career was never as successful as Tom's. Hollywood fame never called to her like it did to Tom. She mainly worked in bit parts in theater and made cameos in TV series like *Bosom Friends*. Susan Jane Dillingham was actually her given name, but she performed under the name Samantha Lewis, derived from a role she played in a play. Albeit founded on love, was put to the test by the trials of their youth. Both Tom and his wife weren't prepared for marriage's full obligations at the time, as he has revealed. He recounted their financial and emotional hardships, stating that their partnership was obviously ill-prepared to deal with such immense pressure. Actually, Tom came clean later on that they were too immature to make their marriage work, which led to their 1987 divorce. He went on to say that he was so lonely that he married Samantha when he was just 21 years old. Tom believed that being married would help him overcome his shattered home background, but he now realizes that his first marriage was based on shaky ground. Their marriage may not have endured, but it was a watershed moment in Tom's story. He frequently mentions that having children at such a young age and being married at such a young age made him mature rapidly. He was able to stay away from bad habits and concentrate on his profession because of it. He has said that their breakup made him stronger, more focused, and more driven to succeed, even though they are no longer together. Even though Tom's marriage ended in divorce, it had a significant impact on his development into a caring parent and famous actor. Hanks wed Rita Wilson a year after that, whom he formed a strong alliance with, which is still going strong now. Now, Hanks knew in his heart that he had made the right decision by ending his marriage to Samantha Lewis, but it didn't alleviate the guilt. He worried he was carrying on his family's dysfunctional pattern of behavior as he had grown up in one. He wished he could shield Colin and Elizabeth from the heartache he felt as a child, so the thought of them growing up in a divided home was troubling. During an open discussion on the podcast In Depth with Graham Benzinger, Hank revealed how difficult this time was for him. He was quite critical of himself, he said, because he felt he was failing at being a father and a husband. He toiled for a long time with the worry that his problems may hurt his kids and make them suffer needlessly. The overwhelming need to protect his children from harm was one of the most challenging aspects of being a parent for him. Having been a single parent after a divorce, he frequently felt helpless in this regard. The public may have seen Tom Hanks' divorce as a soap opera-style love triangle, but there was actually a lot more going on behind the scenes, and it even surprised everyone by affecting his career. People thought Hanks' climb to fame was effortless and unstoppable for a long time. His first marriage's dissolution was a factor in a major what-if moment in Hollywood, according to an interview Rita Wilson gave recently. When Rita and Tom were reminiscing about their youth, she mentioned that Tom received a main part offer from the legendary love comedy When Harry Met Sally. Nevertheless, Hanks declined. He was unable to relate to the role, not because he was uninterested in playing it. He was emotionally detached from the character's romantic predicaments due to his recent divorce. In hindsight, it's crazy to consider that Hanks could have been the star of a cherished romantic comedy, but circumstances prevented it. Billy Crystal may have gone on to become an Oscar winner playing the part, but this was a rare opportunity to see that Tom Hanks' life and career weren't always the picture of perfection. That even the Hollywood A-lister had his share of problems is evident. His course was occasionally influenced in surprising ways by those challenges. Rita Wilson has her own challenges in addition to Tom Hanks's. She was unprepared for the devastating news of breast cancer that she received in 2015. It was news that changed everything. and she courageously decided to have reconstructive surgery and a double mastectomy. Rita recalled how dependent she was on others around her during that period. At all times, Tom, the steadfast partner, was there for her, providing steadfast support. Besides her husband, Rita drew strength from the love of her family, the support of her friends, and the attention she received from her doctors. Gratitude for the community that gathered around her allowed her to tackle the voyage with tenacity, despite the dread and uncertainty. Another obstacle sprang up in 2020, right when things looked like they could settle down. Although Tom and Rita first felt better while in Australia filming Baz Luhrmann's Elvis biopic, their illnesses rapidly progressed from minor colds to more serious ones. The results of their COVID-19 testing were positive. They were among the first prominent persons to publicly acknowledge contracting the virus. The world was still trying to make sense of the early stages of the pandemic, and the timing was completely out of this world. Tom, who was 63 years old and had type 2 diabetes, faced an increased danger, but he kept his composure and listened to his physician's orders to rest and watch his symptoms carefully. But Rita's struggle was far more difficult. She felt the effects of the illness more acutely. She suffered from severe nausea, a persistently high fever that sapped her energy, and a loss of taste and smell. Their friendship was what shone throughout this difficult time of rehabilitation. Their reliance on one another was evident throughout Rita's battle with cancer and their shared experience with COVID-19, highlighting the depth of their partnership. It wasn't simply them that these times of difficulty tested. They proved that there is a type of love that endures, one that is constant, unwavering, and capable of enduring the most devastating trials. Although Hanks and Wilson have stayed out of controversy for the most part, their children, especially Chet Hanks, have caused them a great deal of trouble. Chet has been in the spotlight for a large portion of his life due to his fiery attitude and propensity for causing trouble. Quite a bit, and not always for the same reasons that brought fame to his parents. Chet has dabbled in a number of fields, from acting in films like Shameless and Your Honor to rapping under the moniker Chet Hayes, and from appearing in films like Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. His controversial past and outrageous behaviors, though, are what really make him a topic of conversation. Chet, in contrast to his parents' calm and grounded persona, has made a name for himself as the black sheep of the family. His battle with substance abuse was one of the biggest obstacles Chet had to overcome. He has been open about his struggles with cocaine and crack addiction in his younger years. Chet has been sober since entering rehab in 2015, after reaching rock bottom. But his life was a disaster before he started to get well, and it included a car crash in 2015 that caused the Hanks family legal headaches. It was in February of that year when Chet was driving a car in Los Angeles that belonged to his parents and caused a rear-end collision. As the proprietors of the vehicle, Terry Mugen, the other driver, went on to sue not just Chet but also Tom and Rita. Reportedly, Chet pleaded with Mugen not to contact the authorities while they were on the scene, lending credence to his accusation that Chet was driving carelessly and maybe under the influence. He suffered whiplash and a concussion after banging his head on the dashboard, as reported by Mugen. The lawsuit put the family in an awkward position, even though Chet was not accused of DUI. There was more controversy that Chet encountered. Among his more contentious public encounters, his one with radio legend Howard Stern sticks out. Chet was trying to make it big as a rapper, and Stern, known for his biting wit, mocked him for trying to present a hardcore image. Although Stern's comments were meant to be lighthearted rather than insulting, they gave the impression that he couldn't believe Chet's chosen image, considering his privileged background as the son of Hollywood nobility. The first remarks went unanswered, but tensions flared up again a few years later when Chet's name came up on another radio show. This time, Chet chose to answer, and his reaction was anything but subtle. In a string of angry messages, he took to social media to warn Stern directly. Chet clearly felt personally insulted and was determined to express his anger through his posts, which had an obvious edge. People started talking about the incident and wondering about Chet's strategy after it happened. His reaction, which some thought was excessive, became the latest in a series of embarrassing gaffes. A picture of a young man who struggles to adapt to a life where his every move is watched and judged was painted by the backlash. Thinking back on it, Chet admitted that he was often unable to control his impetuous behavior. He admitted that, throughout his career, he has had a propensity to attract attention for the wrong reasons. In contrast, Stern opted to remain silent and allowed the episode to pass unnoticed by the public. But it just served as another obstacle for Chet as he strives to break free of his parents' influence and carve out a place for himself. This violent clash highlighted the difficulties of growing up in a world where fame can be both a blessing and a curse.